Okay, let's just get the link for. This event or the Mentimeter. So let's see how many people have joined so far. Okay. 5. Hello everyone. This is Amr, and we'll just be starting shortly. We'll wait for a few minutes before we start, just to let people join. Let me copy the link and paste it on the YouTube channel so that people can better join. Hey guys, if you would like to join, I suggest you better join the Teams link I sent you above. You'll be a guest. You'll be guests on the and in the team call, but it's better for you guys, I suppose. And if you want to text or chat, you can chat using YouTube. And from time to time between each section, I will open the mic so you can ask any questions that you might have. We're just waiting for a second until people join before I start the lecture. Not lecture, the workshop. All right, let me close this because my laptop can't handle all of this. All right. What else can I close? All's good. So we've got 14 attendees. Thank you guys again for being here. Just a few more minutes until some more people join. The event is going to be about hosting your own website. Whether you have a domain name or not is not the issue. But we'll be hosting our own websites on Azure virtual machines, which is a cloud-based virtual machine provided by Microsoft. Hold on a second. Let me just open the camera. Okay. So let me just open and see who's here. Allow attendees on mute. So if you guys want to introduce yourself, now you can. Everyone here. No one? Hello? Abdullah Sharif, Abdulrazak, Elena, Aitash, Bashar, Danish, Fireflies, Vassam, Ismail, Kritika, Marij, Mohammed, Tokozani. Anyone would like to join and say hi?
With computer engineering. Very excited for this big man thing.
It's good to have you here, Abdulrazak. I had you guys.
Hey, I think you might know me. I'm Bashar Hafez, also for computer engineering. Nice to have you all here. Really happy for this as well.
Great to have you, Bashar, as well. Thank you for coming. Anyone else?
Towards any area here, I'm very excited about this meeting. Hopefully I get to learn a lot from this meeting. And I'm doing computer engineering as well.
Glad to have you, Tokozani. Thank you for coming.
Hassan Hijazi from Software Engineering Department. I'm very excited with this workshop.
Glad to have you as well, Hassan. Thank you guys for attending. Just be patient. We'll wait for a couple more minutes until we have a decent number of people, just so that nobody misses any information. Okay, I see Laith just joined. Welcome, Laith. Checking the YouTube channel just to see if people, to let them know that joining the Teams meeting is a better alternative, while keeping the YouTube chat open is the best method for those joining outside of the Microsoft Learn organization. So how many are we right now? 16. Okay, we'll start in a minute. Be patient with me, guys. Let them know that joining the. Let's mute this for a second. Okay, we're starting now. Let me first. Okay. Start the recording. Got it. And open share tray. Screen share. Okay. Hi everyone. Today we will be starting a new topic. This topic is, or this is part of the Microsoft Learn Student Ambassador program. I am an Alpha Student Ambassador for this community, and today's workshop is going to be about hosting your own domain name on Azure virtual machines and installing an SSL certificate. I'm Amr Abdullah. I'm a computer engineering senior at the Eastern Mediterranean University in Northern Cyprus. I have good knowledge in web and mobile development and a little cyber network security. My graduation project for this semester is about driver distraction detection on mobile, Android and iOS using Flutter framework. My socials will be again listed at the end of this workshop. So let's start. First of all, we have to define a few definitions. We have to define a few terms. The term virtual machine, domain name, what does it mean to host, or what is a hosting server? And finally, what is an SSL certificate and what does it entail? Now, a virtual machine, probably many of you already know this since we've used virtual machines such as Java Virtual Machine, which is an Oracle product, right? Just like Azure Virtual Machines is a Microsoft product. The difference is the Azure Virtual Machine. The Azure Virtual Machine is a cloud Microsoft product, so it's not actually a program that you download in the same sense that you would for a Java Virtual Machine. It's basically emulating having a hardware and software system on your computer. For example, if you have a Mac OS system and you cannot run certain programs that require a Windows system, you would download an image file or an ISO file, depending on the virtual machine of that system, and you would be able then to run the program or the file that you would want on your Windows system. So that's the main idea. However, there are certain benefits to having or running virtual machines not on your laptop or on your device. That being, the major benefit is security benefits or security concerns. So when we talk about Azure virtual machines and the benefits of such a machine, let me just check if double check. No, it's working. So when we talk about Azure virtual machines and the benefits of security benefits of such machines, we can say that instead of having your own virtual machine on your local desktop, which you would have to deal with open ports, attacks from the outside, whether DOS or DDoS attacks, and so on and so forth, you have the entirety of the Microsoft development team and testing teams backing this virtual machine, meaning you wouldn't have to deal with DDoS attacks, DOS attacks, open ports, unless you specify the ports that you want to open and close. So it adds a second layer of security, right? Rather than just dealing with the virtual machine itself, you can also add an extra layer of security on the Azure portal for that virtual machine. And I'll show you all of this in a second. I'm just defining these terms. Domain name. So, I mean, a domain name is whatever you type in the address bar, whether it's google.com, teams.com, microsoft.com. That's the English language equivalent of an IP address. So in essence, the computers interact with servers and browsers interact with servers using IP addresses. So whenever you request a certain website, you're actually typing in the IP address of that website where the server, where the website is on that server, right? So, for instance, Google might have an IP address of 177 point something point something point something, right? A 4-digit or a 4 space IP address. So a domain name simply reroutes that domain name to that IP address. So when we say a domain name, right, you can host your own website and you might not need a domain name. You can just type in the numbers, as I'm going to show you later on, and you would access the same website. However, a domain name couples that domain name with that IP address. And obviously there's a whole infrastructure behind it. There's domain name servers and the domain name hosting services and so on and so forth. Now, hosting a domain name server, what does it mean? It just means hosting a website and having a hosting server means that you will be allowing or providing the files that you want to be available on the internet, right, at all times. So, in the scope of local virtual machines and cloud virtual machines, you can host the website on your local machine, right, on your local laptop or your local desktop. But again, this security concern is it can be shown using cloud or Azure virtual machines, right? So instead of having to waste extra resources hosting it on your local machine, keeping your laptop plugged in into the power supply 24/7, which will rack up your electric bill and having to deal with security issues 24/7, right? You have your own personal files on your laptop, which might be subject to attacks, whether it's stealing attacks or, again, there's many different attacks, ransomware attacks, where they encrypt your whole device and ask for certain money for them to decrypt your files, and that is not always the case. Sometimes they don't even decrypt your files, and so on and so forth. So there's a different benefit to hosting hosting website on a virtual machine. This is another point that can be made here, and benefit of hosting a website on a virtual machine that is on the cloud and not locally. Finally, an SSL certificate stands for Secure Socket Layer Certificate, and that means basically you proving your identity to a certain centralized authority, right? So browsers, whether Google, Chrome, Safari, Opera, whatever, Firefox, they depend on third-party authorities, certification authorities, or their own. Sometimes, most of the times, Google, for instance, has its own certification authority. Safari or Apple has their own certification authority. But at the same time, they still accept data from other certification authorities. Now, what is a certification authority? A certification authority is basically an entity that, or business, let's say, just to make it clear, that decides, okay, I'm going to be responsible for authentifying certain individuals over the internet, right? And that's a whole public key infrastructure that involves a registration authority, a root certification authority. There's intermediate authorities as well. There's validation authorities as well. So an SSL certificate basically is something that proves to the web browser or to the browser that you are accessing a website that is already identified, that is legitimate. We have their information, right? So now, why is that important? Well, providing an SSL certificate basically allows an end-to-end encryption between the server or the hosting server where the website is being hosted and the user which is trying to access this website. So when you're connecting to a website that has a lock icon on the, for example, let me show you here, for instance, on Teams, you can open this and check the certificates, right? The valid certificate, it tells you who's it issued by, the time, the date of expiration, which type of certificate it is. It's X509 certificate, and so on and so forth, right? The serial numbers, the encryption algorithms. So it allows for end-to-end encryption. So whenever you're entering sensitive information, such as credit details, credit information details, shipping addresses, website, login information, and so on and so forth. These, without such an encryption method, without the secure socket layer encryption method or certificate, are open to the internet. Anyone who can sniff packets can legitimately or can easily actually steal your data. So this SSL certificate ensures or at least adds an extra layer of security to your website or internet interactions. So these are the main definitions for this workshop. For the prerequisites of this course, if you want to follow along and or replicate this after this event, you would need Azure credits, which is basically credits to deploy or use any service on the Azure portal. Again, Azure is the online cloud service by Microsoft. Let me show you how it looks like. This is the Microsoft Azure portal homepage. These are the different resources, some of the different resources that are available, and more can be accessed here. You need a domain name, obviously, since this is tailored mainly for those who already have a domain name. As part of the Microsoft Student Ambassador Program, we receive some perks, some of which are a free 1 year domain name and a valid SSL certificate on that domain name for 1 year. The domain name for this workshop is provided by name.com. I contacted them privately and requested a domain name for this workshop, and they thankfully agreed. So thank name.com for providing such a domain name for this event. You have other domain name providers, namecheap.com, GoDaddy, Bluehost, and etc. Now, a valid SSL certificate, we explained this. Some SSL certificate providers as well are DigiCert, SSLS.com, Bluehost. As you can see here, Bluehost is both a domain name provider and an SSL certificate provider. So that's great. And Bluehost has very good, name.com and Bluehost have very good hosting and packages for domain name and website hosting. Again, for the ambassadors, you get 150 monthly credit when you reach the alpha milestone, and as well you get a 1 year domain name and SSL certificate for reaching the alpha milestone. For those who are not student ambassadors, when you sign up for Azure, right, as students, you get, I don't remember, it was exactly $100 or $200 free credit for 30 months, for 30 days actually. So you can, at the end of this workshop, I have a list of references and links that I'll post so that you guys can check them out. So you can replicate this without having to spend a single dime. Okay, so since we've finished the introductory information, let me just check and see how is everyone doing. Okay, let me just open the mic. Please, if you want to say something or have a question, please raise your hand so I can call you out by name, just so that it's a bit more organized. Does anyone have a question until now? Anything regarding Microsoft Azure, the portal, definitions? Okay, I guess not. All right, let's continue. Great. And here we go. So the first step to this solution, first we have to deploy a virtual machine, right? And to do so, we have to create a resource group. What is a resource group? If you've done any research, or if you've done part 1, 2, or 3 of the Azure Fundamentals AZ900 Learn program, which again I'll link to you at the end, you can see, or you can probably remember that any resource, any individual resource, that is going to be deployed on the virtual machine has to be part of a resource group, right? So, I mean, I don't want to say it's a folder. A resource group is not synonymous with a folder, but it's a container, right? It's a container that contains these different resources. So a resource group can contain no resources, right? You can have an empty container. It can have one, or it can have multiple resource groups or resources. So let's go to the portal. This is the portal when you sign in. You click resource groups, new, right? This is the subscription that you would have to select, right? So the free trial that I got when I first signed up ended, so it's disabled. However, as part of the Microsoft Student Ambassador Program, we get a separate subscription upon reaching the alpha milestone. And so I'd have to choose this since it's the one available. Now, you might say, what is a subscription? If you go back to this diagram, we see that, let's start from the bottom all the way to upwards. Above resources, you have resource groups, and then above that, you have subscriptions. And then above subscriptions, you have management groups. So let's say you're a company, right? Let's say the EMU, our university, Eastern Mediterranean University, is the management group, right? The management group will assign different subscriptions, right? One subscription for the computer engineering department, one subscription for the IT department, one subscription for the administration, right? Whether it's dealing with the database and so on and so forth, etc. So it's basically dividing the credits that are available to different entities, right? So you might want, for instance, the IT department might not use as much cloud resources as, for example, the English preparatory language department or any other department, since the IT department is responsible for the online keeping up of the online services of the university, right? So with that, you can specify what amount of credits they can, what amount of services that they can access, and so on and so forth. So my subscription in this case is the Visual Studio Enterprise subscription. Okay. So now the resource group, which we explained over here, is going to include all the different resources that are going to be deployed. For example, the virtual machine is going to be within this resource group. So to create this resource group, let's call it demo, right? Station resource group. Okay, just demonstration, no problem. We can leave it at that. Now the regions, that depends on which region you want to deploy your resources, right? And that there's many factors that fall into this category. And for me personally, I chose ESUS2 because it has the cheapest prices for virtual machines, all other resources. It's the cheapest out there. However, that's not the best at all times, right? Now you can say, why is that? Well, if we see here, let's just take this link over here. So when you deploy your website and you chose, for instance, I chose the US2. Here, this is my personal website. And let's say New York, right? It's close to the eastern US, or actually it's on the eastern US side. We're going to check the speed, the response time of my website on the US East server while accessing the website from the New York location, right? So just give me a few seconds. So the response time is 1.26 seconds. Now, assuming somebody is trying to access the website from somewhere further east, for example, Singapore. What do you expect, higher or lower? Since we're a bit further, or not a bit, actually a lot further than the server location or the region of that server. Okay, it has to be more. Okay, 4.6 seconds. That's 3 point something seconds, 3.4 seconds more than when you try to access from the New York location. So going back to the um, resource region location, choosing your resource location is more than just about price. It's about availability. It's about business. You know, increasing the knowability of your business name, right? So having, for instance, customers, most customers, like when you have data that most of your customers are from China or Eastern Asia, and you deploy the resource or the machine on the US servers, well, then that's going to make it harder for your users to access the website, to use your services. It's going to take longer. Sometimes you're going to have issues. And so that is not always the best choice. But since it's a personal website where just my name and few information about me is available, I chose the cheapest option, and it's ESUS2, East US2. And you might say, well, how do you know it's the cheapest? You can just simply Google Azure region prices or pricing, right? Check the pricing overview of Azure documents on Microsoft, and you have a calculator, TCO calculator, and so on and so forth. You can use this. Or I'll show you later on during the demonstration how to see the pricing at end time. Yani. So we have the subscription, resource group, demonstration name, and the region. Now review and create. Initially it will validate. Validation has passed. It means you can create this. And we go ahead with creating. We start creating. All right, so now as you can see, in the resource group section, we have the demonstration resource group available here. Click on it, and we can see that it is empty over here. There's nothing, like 0 out of 0 records. There's no resources deployed within this resource group. So now going back to the slides, now we have to actually go on with assigning the virtual machine. And to do so, we go back to the home section of the Azure portal, go for virtual machines. If you don't find it here, you can go over here and click virtual machines. Okay, now this is the virtual machine that I'm using to host my personal website, which is, right, it's a template. Here you go. There's an SSL certificate installed as well. So this is the virtual machine that I'm using to install my or to host my website. Now I'm going to create a new virtual machine just to show you guys how it is done from A to Z. Click add virtual machine. Okay, it's taking a bit of time, no problem. All right, so let's start. Again, same thing with the resource group. You've got subscriptions, right? You have to select from which, let's think about it in this way, in this manner. From which wallet are you trying to spend your money from? So in this case, the Visual Studio Enterprise subscription. The resource group, again, we said we have to select a resource group. And in this case, we're going to choose demonstration, which is the resource group that we just created a few minutes ago. The virtual machine name, this is a name that you can make, that you can write. It doesn't have to be unique. Let's say demonstration virtual machine. The region, I'm going to put it the same region as the resource group region, East US2. The image, now if you're hosting the website, you need a Windows server, right? There are other images. You have Windows 10 Pro version. You can download that, but that will not have the Windows Server Manager, which is what we will be using to host the website. So the beauty about cloud is that there's already preset image files of different OS systems that are available here and already have preset applications, configurations, so on and so forth. So in this case, again, the 2019 data center, there's a 2016, but we'll go with the newest version. Size, here is where you can check the prices, right? So these are the different virtual machines that are available. There's the standard DS1 V2 virtual machine, 3.5 gigs of memory RAM. This is 16 gigs of RAM memory, 35 euros per month, 118 euros per month. You've got the one RAM for 6 euros per month. You can try this out. You probably can use this virtual machine, to host your website, since it's if it's a small website such as a portfolio website, just a text-based website that has nothing to do with input, output, and so on and so forth. So for the case of this demonstration, I'll use the one that I'm used to, which is the 3.5 gigs of memory. Again, you can check all the different sizes. These are not all of them. If you click on select all sizes, you will check that there are a lot. Close the most used, but there's the D series, B series, A series, E, F, L, D, E, D, and so on. There's a lot, right? And if you open each series, you can see the different types, the CPUs, the RAM, the data disks, the maximum input output per second, the temporary storage, whether premium disk selection is allowed or not, and the cost per month. Now this, you can already, like I said, Google it and check the Azure documentation on Microsoft page and see what would be the best option for you. But again, like I said, you can do it from here. You can check it from here. Now close this, go back here, select the same one that we selected. The administrator account is what we're going to use to access the virtual machine from. So in this case, the username is going to be Amr Abdullah. It can be anything unique, right? And there's certainly parameters that have to be set, unique with respect to your virtual machine. So it doesn't have to be unique internationally or over the scope of all virtual machines on Azure. The password, I'm going to make it as demo, capital D, 1, 2, 3, 4. It has to be minimum of 12 characters in length. It has to include a capital letter and small letters. So capital D, MO, capital D, MO, 1, 2, 3, 4. Wait a few seconds. All right, so it's done. The RDP port 3389 is going to be used to access the virtual machine. So we leave this as the default value. Public inbound ports allow select ports, which is the RDP 3389. And next, disks. You can click this, or you can go over simply to the next section. Networking, you can select the type of OS disk type you want it to be. Do you want the OS to be installed on the premium SSD, standard SSD, standard HDD? These are different tiers, right? Each one has its own benefits. We'll just leave it with the most up-to-date and beneficial one. Next, go to the networking. Right, these are the different networking options that you can select from. I'm just leaving it the same. Management, for example. One thing here that you can do is that you can enable auto shutdown. For example, if you don't want to incur a lot of cost in your deployment, right? You don't want the machine to be running 24/7, especially when, for instance, you know that most users are accessing your website on a certain time period. For example, during the morning, and at evening nobody's accessing the website, or maybe one or two people are accessing the website. You can enable auto shutdown at the specified time. But for our case, we just disable it. We don't need it. Then you can go ahead and check the advanced tags, which are optional values that you can manipulate with. And then finally, review and create. This step checks if your virtual machine is or can be created. And look, validation has been passed, as you can see here. And then you can go ahead and create the virtual machine. This can take a few minutes, 2 to 5 minutes. So in the meantime, while it's creating, I'm gonna check. Let me just show you guys as well. If you click here at the bell icon, everything you're doing is being it's shown in real time. So this is the credit that I have left. A few minutes ago, actually, we created the resource group. It says here, and finally, the virtual machine is being deployed. So it's still in deployment. Anyways, not now. All right. So since that is done, let's see. Okay, if you guys have any questions up until now, don't be shy. You should go ahead and ask. There's no shame in asking. So if you have any questions, please go ahead and ask until the machine is deployed.
I have one.
Go ahead, Bashar.
Can you explain real quick that tool you use for testing the website? That seemed really interesting.
Sure. Let me just find the link. So this is simple latency website checker. Basically, it just checks the response time of your website from different servers, different regions from around the world. So basically, if you deploy your server, right, we talk about Azure virtual machines and the East, US, or Europe servers, right? All of these cloud solutions actually have hardware components on the ground. So when you say that, when in my case on my website, I chose the server to be placed in, or the one that is already placed in the East US region, right? Now, when you are trying, what is the benefit and why do we have this, right? Why do we have these different servers? Because connecting from across the globe to this day is still including hardware components. So, for instance, if you want to connect across seas, you can't do that over Wi-Fi, and over satellite is still not feasible, right? The majority of all connections are still using fiber optic connections, cables. And so when you connect over a longer distance, that will take more time for the information that you're trying to get from that website or from that server. It will take more time, right? Do you agree?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. So this website basically measures the amount of time that it actually takes for you to access this website from whatever location you choose, right? So how long does it take to access the US server here? This is based on the US server from Germany, right? From Holland, from London, the US itself, right? Different parts of the US, from Singapore, right? And this is important if you are a businessman. If you have a business, for instance, that is catering to the eastern continent of Asia, right? Where would you most likely choose your server to be? Obviously, somewhere around that area, whether in China or Singapore or so on and so forth. So in this case, since it's a simple portfolio website, I prioritized cheap or the cost over the availability of the website. So hopefully that is clear.
Yeah.
Okay. Anyone else? Any questions? Okay. Let's go on with the. Oh, okay. Let me see. Somebody asked me to join. Oh, sorry, Azmi. Okay, let's go on. There's a question, Tokozani. Okay, 1 second. All right, go ahead, Tokozani.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
When you're creating the virtual machine, what happens if you choose a different region?
There's nothing. You can choose whatever region that you want, right? But there are certain things that you need to take into consideration. Sometimes certain regions do not have the available or the selected disk in the when you're trying to create the resource group. Let me just show you the virtual machine. So some regions are full. For example, many certain regions in Europe, the Eastern Europe or the Western Europe region, usually does not have the 3.5 gigs of RAM virtual machine. So you'd have to select another region. But since the East US2 is a cheaper, it's a newer region that is being deployed, the solutions over there or the virtual machines that are available are actually available. There aren't much that are being used. So you can actually choose anything that you want. It doesn't have to be the East US2, right? But it's the cheapest option and it's the most available option, and you would most likely find all the different images that you would like of the operating systems available on that region, as opposed to different already set servers around the world.
Okay, thank you.
Welcome. Any other question? Okay. So let's keep going with the. So okay, here we go. This is the virtual machine. The resource group is demonstration. The information here that we set is everything here, and the public IP address. This is very important. The public IP address of the virtual machine is this. This is what we will be trying to connect to from our browsers using this IP address and using the domain name which we will connect and couple with this IP address eventually. So since we've reached this step, we've done the virtual machine deployment up until, all right, enable, disable, auto shutdown, and then deployed. Now we have to make the IP address static. Now you might say, what's the point of doing this? Well, each time that you shut down the machine, right, you can shut down the machine. Look here, stop. Just like you're shutting down your own laptop. The IP address changes when you restart it, right? So to do so, making it static allows the domain name to always work with the static IP address. So for example, if you coupled your domain name with this IP address, right, 13.776452, and then you restarted your laptop or your machine, this will change, and the coupling of that domain name with this IP address won't work because the machine will have a new IP address. So you will have to go around creating a different SSL certificate, creating a different routing, domain name routing records, which I'll show you all in the next steps. So to do this, to avoid any errors and to avoid any extra trouble in the future, make your IP address static. So which means this is the IP address for your virtual machine for the entirety of its lifetime up until you deallocate the virtual machine. So click save after you've selected to be static. Okay, it's saved, it's static right now. And what's the next step? You've got to add the HTTP and HTTPS inbound rules, right? So we talked about, so in this case, we'll just do the HTTP. We'll add the HTTPS later on just to explain a different concept in the future. So we'll add the HTTP inbound rules. What this allows, like we said, having a virtual machine on the cloud is different than on your local desktop. On the cloud, you have an extra layer of security. So for example, if you allow HTTP connections on your local machine and you have it disabled on your cloud, in your cloud settings here, you will not be able to access the website or to access the server using HTTP because the configuration settings within the cloud, within the Azure cloud portal, are superior to that, to those configurations inside the local virtual machine, right? So we add the HTTP inbound rules. We can leave this to later on to explain to the HTTP and HTTPS. All right, so now since we have the virtual machine available, right, this is the virtual machine. To connect to this virtual machine, we need to download one more client or one more application, which is the Microsoft Remote Desktop. Okay. So that you can access the virtual machine. So if you go ahead and you click on this website, let me see if I can open it here. All right. As you can see here, it's simple, it's free. The links will be available at the end of the workshop. So you can just go ahead and click get and it will download automatically. And I already have it here over here, the Microsoft Remote Desktop, so I won't be doing that. Let me just add somebody else to the call. This is a fellow Microsoft Student Ambassador. All right, so we can go ahead and continue with the. All right, so since we're here and we already have the client available, the remote desktop, you can go ahead and connect to the virtual machine using the connect icon over here. Click connect and RDP. Remember the RDP that we selected was a default value when we tried to deploy our virtual machine using port 3389. This is the same one, RDP. So we're trying to connect to this demonstration VM using the RDP port number, which was 3389. So click the RDP. It will give you the option to download the RDP file. Click download, right? So now it should be downloaded and ready to launch. So where is it? Demonstration VM. This is the name of our virtual machine, right? So click on this. Give it some time. Okay. Username, we said it's Amr Abdullah. This is the same username that we created when we were trying to create the virtual machine, right? The password is going to be demo, right? Demo 1234. It has to be 12 characters in length, small letter, big letter, and numbers. Continue. Right, just skip this, click continue, and it should connect in a second. Here we go. This is the virtual machine, right? So it's amazing. You're on a Mac OS system and connecting to a Windows machine over the internet. That is, I mean, for me, that is something out of this world. Anyways, so this is the new system that we have, and automatically, since this is a server manager image file of the Windows data center, it automatically opens the server manager application, right? This is an application that you can download on your own virtual machine or on your own machine for that matter. So since we are done with this step, we connected using RDP, right? So we have access to our own Windows device. Now, since we're done with virtual machine deployment, let me open the ability for you guys to ask any questions up until now. If you have anything, any questions?
Yes, I have one question.
Go ahead, Tokazani.
Can you make a virtual machine for example, Mac, iOS?
There is, I remember, as far as I remember, when I was looking at the image files in the marketplace, yeah, there was one, but it was outdated, I think. You'd have to go about and checking the available image files. So for instance, when you go ahead and you create a virtual machine, you can do that right now. Right, add a virtual machine. And see all the images available. Click on that. Okay, so these are all different types of images available. Windows, Linux, Debian, Ubuntu. You can see more. These are compute. Featured. Okay, let's see the featured, what there is. You can search for Mac. Okay, I guess there isn't. In this case, no, there isn't. So you'd have to still use a virtual machine, I guess. Can you use can you find using regular Java virtual machines? Have you ever tried that, Tokozani?
No,
For
I
the-
have never.
For the Mac image? Okay, I guess I have no idea. I guess they don't have it over here. No, they don't.
So we can create in a virtual machine for any operating system.
Any available image file on the marketplace. So if they in the future allow it or make it available, then you probably can. But Mac in general, they're a bit strict on these kind of things. So I don't think Apple allows for this. But like as you have seen, Ubuntu, Linux, different types of Windows servers, Windows image files are available. Okay, does that answer? I hope that answers any questions you have.
Yes.
Okay. All right, so let's go ahead. Since we're done with this part, this is the bulkiest part, I would say. The initial deployment of the virtual machine and explaining all the different different components of the virtual machine, how they are deployed. So the next step is to connect the IP address that we've obtained from the virtual machine that is available on the internet right now. Well, actually, it's not available yet, but it is on the it's deployed and ready to use. We have to connect that to the domain name using the domain name provider. So in this case, the domain name provider, like I said, is name.com. They provided me with a free, an extra free domain name for this presentation. So thank you, domain name.com team, and hopefully you guys can benefit as well from this using their services. So log in. I have the two-factor authentication, so I hopefully this doesn't ask me again. Okay. Okay. What's happening? Okay, here we go. Sometimes it takes 2 times for some reason. All right, so this is the starting page of the name.com website. And these are the 2 different domain names that I have. This is already deployed. And as you can see, this is a very new domain name. It started at 2021. It ends at 2022, 14 March. So we'll be using the rbdgroup.live domain name. So if you go to my domains, you'll have the rbdgroup.live, quick links, manage DNS records, right? So here this is called the rerouting records. So when you are trying to access the, for instance, the rbd.group.live here on the tab or the browser, you would have to enter here the corresponding IP address of the virtual machine that you're trying to access, right? So in this case, we have to go back to the Azure portal, check the virtual machines, and check the IP address, which we made static, of the recently deployed virtual machine, which we will be hosting our website on. So in this case, you can go ahead and copy this IP address. There should be a copy icon around here. Here we go, copy to clipboard. Go back to the domain name provider. Keeping this empty means when you enter in the group, in the address bar, rbdgroup.live without the www or without any subdomain before that. So this is the answer, add record. It's as simple as that. Another one, if somebody types in www.rbdgroup.live, it's going to reroute to the same IP address of the virtual machine, right? So you've added a record now. That's it. That's all it takes to reroute. Okay. So now, if we take this and we paste it here, do you think it's gonna work? I don't think so. Of course, because we haven't set up the server yet. So in essence, at the end of this workshop, we will have this up and running with our own custom set HTML page, and eventually we will have the instead of the your connection to this site is not secure, we will have the connection is secure icon in the Chrome or whatever browser you're using. So now what is next? It's really simple IP routing, especially using the domain name, the name.com domain name services. They're very easy. Next, another chunky part of this workshop is the setting up of the server. This is basically what is involved with hosting a website. This is the term hosting website. Hosting server comes from setting up the server in order to allow the website to be available for external or inbound connections from the outside. So let's go back to the virtual machine. This is, again, let me just show you guys how we came about this. You go back, you go to the start menu, server manager. This is already available when you pre-downloaded when you select the data center image from the virtual machine image list. You should click add roles and features. You can skip these few pages here. Since we are using it for our own personal websites, right? We select the role-based or feature-based installation. When you have different team members who are involved with the editing of the website, the back end, front end, so on and so forth, you would have to be able to connect from different parts of the world or different parts of anywhere, basically. You would select the remote desktop services installation. So for this case, we'll select this. Select the virtual machine or the server that we're using, and this is the name of our virtual machine. Here we go. We have to select what kind of, what are the services that are going to be available in this server manager, right? So if you scroll all the way to the bottom, you have the web server, IIS, which is the Internet Information Services. You have to select that to install it, right? And add features. Tamam? You go next. You check the features that are available. You don't play with them. You can just select, just have a look at all the different features that you can add, right? The .NET framework and so on and so forth. But for the sake of website hosting, we don't need to select any of these. Next. Again, this is within the web server role, the Internet Information Services. These are the different protocols or the different services that are available within this web server role. So for this, we just select HTTP redirection. We won't be using it in the meantime, but just as an additional layer so that you guys, if you guys want to use HTTP redirection, you can have it available as a service. So click next. This is a confirmation of everything that you would like to install on the server, and then click install. So while this installs, right, so here is where we will allow the HTTP inbound port 80 connections in Azure portal, right? So if you go back to the space, let's just wait for it to install. In the meantime, I'll check the let's see the YouTube. See if anyone has any questions. So this is taking a long time. So in the meantime, let's just go back to the server itself. Okay, still installing. All right, there's no questions. Okay, so it's complete, succeeded, and close. Simple as that. Next, to access the web server manager that we just installed, you go to the tools and Internet Information Services Manager, which is what we just installed a few seconds ago. Click on that to open a new desktop or a new pop-up. And now we have to allow the port 80 connections in Azure Portal. Now, why do we do this? Because as we just showed you a few seconds ago, when you click rbdgroup.live, right, nothing shows up. It actually does not connect. Now, why is that? It's because, like we said, in Azure, we have an extra layer of security that is above the security configurations of the local machine or the local virtual machine that we have, right? So if you go to the demonstration virtual machine and we go to NSG, Network Security Group, and then to Inbound Rule Security. So we go to the, first of all, we go to the resource group that we have the virtual machine in, which is demonstration. Remember, we created this in the beginning. Now look, if you open this, we're going to have multiple resources, not just one, not just the virtual machine. Right, you have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 6 resources. This is the disk, the OS system, the file, and you have the network security group, the IP address, the virtual machine, the virtual network, the network of the virtual machine, and I guess this is storage or network interface in this case. So we go for the network security group over here, right, to allow the inbound security rules. Inbound meaning anybody trying to access or to enter our web server. So inbound security rules. In this case, to explain the priorities, the bigger the number, the higher the priority it has over everything else. So in this case, the default security setting is deny all inbound. Nobody can enter nobody can access or try to get information from the web server or the website in this case. Next, you have the Azure load balancer, it's allowed, and then the virtual network allowed. And then to connect to the website or to the virtual machine, we added the RDP 3389, which was when in the setting of the virtual machine, the default port number 3389, which allows, which kind of allows you to bypass the deny all inbound. So now we click add to add the HTTP service, right? This is what you connect to. This is the protocol that you use to connect to websites across the internet, across browsers. So now it's by default port 80. Action, we have to allow it. And then the name, we can just say HTTP 80, right? You can name it anything, but for the sake of conformity with the service itself, we are naming it the same as the service. So HTTP 80, click add. And this should be set now. Create a security rule, great. So now if you refresh, it should appear here. There you go. So now, if you go to the website, rbdgroup.live, might take some time because the rerouting from the name.com DNS servers needs some time to refresh. What we can do is we can come here to the IIS manager, right? Click on sites. This is the default website, right? We can restart it. It's like a refresh, or you can refresh it here, right? And so if you go to the, see? Try to access, guys, this website, rbdgroup.live, rbdgroup.live. You should be able to access it, even though it's not a secure connection, but you will be able to access the default HTML website of this that is being installed on the server. So now this is live, right? We did nothing. We basically did very little to provide this on the internet, right? We rerouted the domain name to the virtual machine IP address. We installed the web IIS manager, which is what we're using here, on the server itself. This is the server, the virtual machine server, right? These are the sites, and this is the website, the default website. Okay. So now you might be saying, okay, well, I want to change the website. I want to create something else. In this case, you have to know where are the files of this website being stored on. So by default, if you go to this PC, Windows C, inetpub, www-root, this is the files. These are the files that are used to access the or to provide information to the user when he's trying to access this website. So this is the HTML file. Now, had we created a new HTML file, right? New, and then let's leave this for a second. Let's see if everybody is able to access this initially. So let's open the voice capability. Okay, guys, hope if you have any questions, please ask it now and tell me if you've been able to access the website from your machine.
Can you drop the link for that?
Can I what?
Drop the link.
I don't think you can open the chat since you guys are not part of the. It's rbdgroup.live. rbdgroup.live.
Or you can post it on the comments
on YouTube. Yeah.
Yes.
There you go. And I'll post it here for the people who are able to access. Azmi Jobani, thank you for attending. Wait, what happened?
Yes, Mr. Amr. I can access it.
Okay, that's good. Thank you. How do you?
Okay.
It's lagging. Sorry.
Yeah, I can confirm it's accessible here as well.
Okay. All right, that's good. Does anyone have any questions? No? Okay. You sure? Tamam. All right, so I'm just removing this because it's lagging, so it allows it for a better smooth running of the event. Anyways, so this is the HTML default website. Now you can delete this website, right? You don't want this website, right? You can add different websites, but you don't want this one, so you can just remove it. Yes. Now to add a new website, let's first create a simple, very, very simple HTML web page, right? So as a matter of fact, to make this a bit more inclusive, there is within the resources that I'm going to provide a link for a free website template page, which is this, right? And this is what I use to deploy my own virtual or my own website, portfolio website. Right. So this is the website. It's a free. There is paid, but there's also free, where you can access the different templates available. It saves time. You just have to edit parts of the code where you have to add the personalized information about yourself and who you are and what you've done. But overall, it's a free website, very beneficial website, saves time. So you can select any of these, right? And more importantly, once you download this and it downloads on your own OS system, you can go ahead and, where is it? And this is the portfolio website. You can go ahead and copy it, right? go to your virtual machine, right click, okay, time, and paste. So you can cross copy paste between the different OS systems, right? So this might take time. We'll just leave it, we'll let it take its time, and go ahead and explain some more concepts over here. So we have so far finished this, and we will be explaining the adding the sites and setting the default document. So when we deleted the default website over here, right, it was set as a default website. So now when we add website, let's just allow it to finish to be more safe. Okay. Okay, here we go. We'll have to put it in the same root folder that is available in the C disk, right? So here we go. This is the full path. You can delete these start files that we don't really need, right? You can bring this portfolio and drag it over here. Now open this file and we see that there's the index. This will be our new default file. Now if you want to check what is the file extension, it's .html, obviously. We can go here, right click, add website. So here we're gonna call it demonstration website. You can name it anything, since it's just a name that is for yourself, for demonstration for visual purposes, right? You select the physical path. Now you can select any path, but I just decided to leave it in the www root folder. Select the folder itself and not the file, which is the HTML file. You select the folder that includes all the CSS, JavaScript, and HTML files, and every other video file or picture, image, any asset basically, and click OK. The binding, it's an HTTP binding, right? Since we're connecting over HTTP. Now later on, when we connect the SSL certificate, we will add the HTTPS binding, which is going to be on another port 443. So for now, this should be it. Click OK. Right. Now the thing is, I'll show you the error. Hopefully it shows an error. I know that's something nobody wants to hear, but for the sake of explaining what's happening, there should be an error right now. Okay, I guess there's no error. Okay. So this is the website now. It's as simple as that, right? It's very simple. What the error that I was referring to is when you actually don't copy and paste a complete folder, when you just put a simple HTML file here, right? When you do that, you'd have to come to the server manager here, default document, if you get that error, right? And then here you would have to enter the name of the default document, which is index.html, right? And click enter. See, it already exists in default documents list, so it was already here. But sometimes when you delete the website and you try to add a website that is not part of a folder group, it's just a simple HTML file, it will not be here. So in order for the website to be accessible, there has to be a default document here in this list, right? So if you check here, the index.html, and then we have here index.html, which means whenever you try to access this website, right, it's going to see if there is at least one here that matches with the HTML file that is available here, which is this one. So since it's available, we didn't face an issue. So I mean, it's a good thing. So this is it. you up until now you can host your own website. However, the one downside would be not having a secure connection, which is deterrent to people. Nobody likes to connect to anything that is not safe, anything that might harm you or your laptop, your files. So in this case, up until now, we have completed the server setup and website deployment on Azure virtual machines up until now, right? So next step would be the SSL certification installation. I would like to give 5 minutes break after seeing if you guys have any questions regarding everything we've done above. So 5 minute break, and then we'll continue on the SSL certificate installation. So let me just open and see if you guys have any questions. All right. Sorry, it's just having a 7-year-old laptop that is 4 GB in RAM is a bit tiring. Okay. Does anyone have any questions? Did I select this? Okay. Does anyone have any questions before we go on a break? Anyone? Anything regarding anything, even if something I've already explained and you guys don't understand a certain thing about the server manager or the website manager or why you selected a certain file path, anything that you guys have questions on, please go ahead and ask.
I guess I want to say there's quite a lot of steps in all of the things you've done. It's quite overwhelming. I'm guessing the YouTube live would, after the meeting is done, would be live on your channel, right? Like
Yes.
it would be available.
Yes, YouTube Live automatically saves the recording or the stream on the thing, and more to add to that, I'll be providing the PowerPoint file as well as the references that are available within the PowerPoint, where you can download everything that is being shared, right? All the websites that I've linked to you guys and showed you, whether it's downloading the Microsoft Remote Desktop, and in the future, after 5-10 minutes, I'll show you guys how to install the SSL certificates, how to check if they're valid or not, how to edit certain code within the default web configuration files. All of that will be linked in the PowerPoint slides, so you will have access to that at the end of the workshop. So that should, I think, be good. Any questions?
Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you, welcome. Any questions regarding the actual deployment of the virtual machine, setting up the server, routing the domain name to the virtual machine IP address? Anything? Any questions regarding that? If you have anything, please ask now.
I have a question.
Yeah, go ahead, Tokenori.
When you are using the IIS manager,
Yes.
can you add 2 or more websites on?
Yes, you can do that. Yes, you can do that. You can definitely do that. You add 2 different websites, right? Let me just show you. I'll leave this as something for you to learn, right? Because we won't have time to do all of this, but I'll show you what it means, right? So if you add a website, you can name it anything. Path, let's say this desktop. There's no file right now, but you would have to change the port number, right? Since the original website, the default website, had the port number of 80, right? You can't have two same websites on the same port number. Because if you try to add it now, it will give you an error. Look, the binding 80, the port number 80, is assigned to another site. So if you assign the same binding to this site, you will only be able to start one of the sites, right? So you'd have to change the port number. So yeah, it's possible to add multiple websites, but you would have to change the port numbers. Now, what are port numbers? Port numbers are basically doors for you to enter the server. When somebody tries to connect from the outside world, or considering anything outside this virtual machine is from the outside, anyone outside of this virtual machine is trying to enter your virtual machine has to access a number of ports. Now, I'm accessing this virtual machine through port number 3389, which is the RDP file that I downloaded and I opened. Do you remember this, Tokozani? 3389.
Yes, sir.
Yes. So when you're trying to access the server in any way that you want, you have to access it through ports. So attacks over the internet, attacks on servers always target open ports. So if you have all ports closed as the default setting, which is what we saw in this, like, look, deny, everything is denied. but then you add on top of that the allowed ports. That is the better security feature, rather than keeping everything open, right, and then closing what you want. No, close everything and open what you want. In this case, you can track what traffic is coming to what and from where. So yes, going back to your question, you can add a different website. You'll have to change the port number. It should work, right? I leave this for you guys to. There's many things that we can go on and explain and see, but if we did that, this workshop would turn into a 5-day workshop, and it's just not feasible. So hopefully, you guys at the end of this workshop, you can apply this, sign into Azure, get your free credit, and then explore the different features and different capabilities that you can do within. Okay, so from now, let's take a 5-minute break or an 8-minute break up until 3:30, and guys get refreshed, drink some water, tea, have something to eat, and I'll be back in 8 minutes. All right, guys, don't leave. Please come back. There's still more to do. There's the SSL certification installation, which is a big part of safe website browsing. Okay, so 3:30 on the time. I'll be back. See you guys. Okay. Hi, hello. What's up with this? Oh, I have to close OBS. Okay, I'm back. Is everyone here still? Hopefully. Yeah, Abdurazak. We have to teach our own teachers, our own professors how to. Okay. Is everyone back? Tokozani, Bashar, who else? Hussam, Marriage.
Yeah.
You guys are here?
Yeah, buddy, we're right here.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, thank you guys. Let's start. Yeah, I don't like to do this, but I have to since my laptop is barely working properly. Okay, so we've finished right now the third part of the presentation or the workshop. We first start with the virtual machine deployment, IP routing, and the server setup. Now the next step is to install the SSL certificate, and before that, we have to actually obtain the certificate, right? Obtaining a certificate generally, right? Obtaining a valid, not just self-signed certificate. Anyone can self-sign certificate, right? But obtaining a certificate that is validated and authenticated by a third-party centralized authority, right? In this case, it's DigiCert, which I mentioned earlier on over here. DigiCert. So the name.com domain name, or the server or the service itself, has teamed up with DigiCert, right, to provide digital certificates. So you can actually buy DigiCert SSL certificates from the name.com website or service. So in this case, with the domain name that I have, which is rbdgroup.live, over here, I obtain or I get a free 1-year SSL certificate. Now you can buy this, but since I already have it, it's here. Like, look, it's saying set up now. So click on that. The same process, even though we have different name providers. You have Bluehost, GoDaddy, and so on and so forth. It's the same process, different user interface, right? The websites are going to be different, but it's the same process. You have to do the same exact steps that we have right now in order to obtain your SSL certificate. So the SSL domain setup, right? It takes your, here it's asking for my first name and last name, the email address that I use to sign up with name.com, and the certificate signing request. Now, what is a certificate signing request, right? A certificate signing request, basically, it's a message that you send, right, as a private individual or a business entity to a registration authority. Again, this registration authority is the same authority that is allowing you or identifying you as the person that you are. For example, in this case, we said it's DigiCert, DIGICERT, right? We said that a public key infrastructure that is involved with authentifying or authenticating who is who. Generally, you have when it's a centralized model and it's involving certificates, we have the root certification authority, you have the validation authority, and then you have the registration authority. Now, in order to join this public key infrastructure, you have to register yourself using the registration authority, right? So to do so, we go to the virtual machine here, or to the manager itself. We click on, where is it? It's lagging. On the machine itself, right? You click server certificates, create certificate request. This is basically contacting the registration authority with your personal information. This is what you use to register to the registration authority. After this, when you do that, this information will be sent to the certification authority and then stored in their databases or on multiple intermediate certification authorities, right? For the sake of redundancy. That is where, when browsers try to authenticate this website, they get this certificate from the certification authority or from the intermediate certification authorities. So let's create the certificate request. Now, these are the different fields that you need to fill out. The country region, all right, US, Florida, depending on who your business is, city, locality, Daytona Beach, for instance, organizational unit, right? So let me just show you I want to copy paste what I have just here, the IT or the admin, the name of the organization, and then the common name that you have for your website. So the common name is the domain name that we have, rbdgroup.live, organization or RBD group, right? The name of the company basically. And the organizational unit is what part of this team or this organization is responsible for the editing and the keeping up to date the website details, information, the back end, front end, and so on and so forth. So in this case, you can say admin or IT, doesn't matter, admin for instance. Next, now here is a very important topic, right? This bit length is a very related or strongly related to security of your website. The smaller the bit length, the easier that a hacker or a security specialist, whether white or red or gray or white or a script kiddie, can actually hack your website. So the bigger the length, the stronger, the harder. This is virtually impossible to crack, right? This will take years, if not hundreds, maybe thousands of years, right? But with everything, you have give and take. For example, the higher the bit length, the greater the bit length, the longer it will take for users to retrieve information from your website, right? Why? Because with SSL certifications, right, with the SSL protocol, you're encrypting and decrypting information over the internet. So you encrypt information, you send it through the tunnel that is connecting the end-to-end services, which is the server, towards the user. But at the end of these tunnels, or quote-unquote tunnels, you are decrypting this information. And when the bit length increases, the encryption and the decryption will take longer time. So Microsoft recommends having a minimum of 2048 bit length, key bit length for your cryptographic needs, right? So you can make this higher, lower, depending on what information you're passing around. If you have credit card information, you might want to increase that a bit, but you should know that doing so, you are sacrificing key processing times for your customer. It might become laggier. It might take more time for certain processes to finish, and so you have to take that into consideration. So there's two different channels. The RSA channel is an asymmetric encryption method. So this is a better, securer, more secure method. So we leave this at the Microsoft RSA channel, 2048-bit key length. Next, specify a file name for the certificate request. So the point is, we're creating a certificate request that we're going to take and submit using the domain name, the name.com certificate signing request form here. So this is basically just file name is going to be certificate signing request.txt, right? We don't even need to put .txt because the file type is .txt here. So open, finish. So in a matter of seconds, you should get something on the desktop here. Okay. Did I get it on the Let's see, maybe I received it here. That's weird. Okay. Yeah, I think I didn't change it to the desktop. Okay. Let me double check. Where could it be? Download documents. Okay, it's in documents. All right, it was here. Okay. All right, so we can take this, we can open this. You have to copy everything, including the annotation here, the end and begin a new certificate request. This is all included. This is used to detect where the actual key is. Right, this is very sensitive information. You should not share this. But since this is just a virtual machine that I'm going to deallocate at the end, there's no problem. Now, let's go back to the name.com service, certificate signing request. You paste this here, delete the extra space. Doesn't really matter since they will use this to detect when the end is, and you get the CSR details, right? So this information is actually embedded into this gibberish, you know. So the organization needs admin, Daytona Beach, Florida, US, all is, double check this, all is good and correct. Next step, yes, we're not using .name.com as hosting, no problem. Next step, now what will you get? You will get a certificate response. Validate your domain. Certificates have been issued, right? So this is what you get as a byproduct of submitting a certificate signing request. So after you contact the registration authority, which is what we just did, you will receive from the public key infrastructure, from the entirety of the infrastructure, which includes the validation authority, the registration authority, and the root certification authority, you will receive a certificate, right? The certificate is here. Click show certificate, and it will be in the same format as the certificate signing request. So again, you copy all of this, copy, and you go back to your virtual machine. You create a new text file. We'll edit this at the end and call this certificate response, CER, right? And change, and okay, open it, paste the stuff in. Let's just double check the end is correct. TYCT, it doesn't mean it's correct, but double check. File, save as. Now we're gonna save this as .cer, right? So the extension for the request, for the response, has to be .cer. The request was in text format, but the response has to be in .cer format, which again corresponds to certificate response. Right, and save. Now, here we go, CER. Tamam. Next step, since we requested the certificate, we created the certificate request, we have to complete it, right? So we're telling the server, hey, we would like a certificate request to submit to the certification authority, and it gave you a text file. Then you have to tell the server that, listen, the certification authority has replied back to me, and I would like to show you that I am validated. And you do so by clicking the complete certificate request, right? So the file name containing the certification authority's response is this. This is the response from the certification authority. You have to browse through to find it. .cer, open. Friendly name, just name it as, just to be able to, and you can add it to your personal or to your web hosting certificate store. It doesn't really matter. On the Microsoft documents page, they mention that when you have excess of 30, 40 certificates, it's a better practice to put it on the web hosting store. But for the sake of this workshop, we leave it at the web hosting store nonetheless. And then click OK. and your certificate has been issued. This is it. Now, if you refresh, it should stay there. It is. So now you have an SSL certificate installed on your system. But now, I'm going to ask a question just to make this a bit more interactive. When we first created the virtual machine, right? We weren't able to access the website because of something, right? So initially, we weren't able to access the website because of something. Now, what is that something? Let me open the. I'm giving you a few seconds to think about this. So it involves multi-layer security. I remember saying this. There's a multi-layered. Okay, Tokozani, go ahead. Wait, didn't I unmute? Okay.
I'm not sure, but I think the HTTP.
Great. Yeah. Correct. Yeah. So when you allow HTTP connections, right, you have to allow them on two different domains or in two different places. The virtual machine itself, which in this case it is already set, and you have to allow it on the Azure portal since we're hosting it on the cloud. So we don't actually have two layers, we have multiple layers. But in the sake of that, when you compare the virtual machine, the local virtual machine with the cloud virtual machine, we have two different places where we can change security settings. So with that being said, we have to first bind. Let me just. Good job, by the way, Tokozani. You've been paying attention, so thank you. We have first of all to bind the website to an HTTPS connection. So click bindings, right? You need to add a binding, HTTPS, all unsigned, and automatically it's 443, right? And the SSL certificate is what we created, the friendly name that we just gave it at the end when we completed the certificate request, RBD group.live. So we selected the type HTTPS. The port 443 is automatically assigned, and you leave it that way because it's the same port number that is going to be edited or added on the network security group in the Azure portal. And you select the certificate, which is the RBD group live that we completed using the complete certificate request button in the server. So click this and then select OK, right? And close. Now, if you re-click bindings again, you will see that you have HTTPS and HTTP. Great. Now, we have to go to the Azure portal to add this network security group. So if we refresh, we have the RDP and the HTTP AT, and we're going to add the extra service, which is the HTTPS protocol. So the service is going to be HTTPS. See, automatically it takes it as 443. You cannot change the port number for this service, the HTTPS service, which again, HTTPS in this case is synonymous with the SSL protocol HTTPS 443. The name of the service, you can name this anything. You can name it web HTTPS web 443, but again, just to be uniform with the other naming, we'll keep it the same. And then you add it. Right? So this will not allow you to actually automatically, access the HTTPS, the website through HTTPS. Right? So in this case, you will need to reroute all traffic to. This allows you actually to use the HTTPS protocol, but does not ensure that each traffic that is entered, each one who enters my website is entering through HTTPS. To do so, there is a few more steps that we need to do. We need to install a URL rerouter or rewriter, which is the Microsoft, it's a Microsoft, what do you call it, application. But for the sake of, just for checking if everything is correct, we will check the DigiCert help website. Now, what this does, it checks whether or not you've correctly installed the SSL certificate, right? So how does it do that? Let's see. go to the digicert.com/help. Now I'm using this since the SSL provider, my SSL provider is DigiCert, so it's logically feasible. It's better if you use this service, rvdgroup.live. Okay, so it's giving you everything. Everything is good. The DNS resolved to it's correct. It's resolving to the correct virtual machine. It's giving you the name and everything. It's saying that the certificate has not been revoked. Great, that's good. Now, if we try to access HTTPS, sometimes, by the way, this might take up to 24 hours for it to work. But if we do this, see, it's now secure. So go ahead, guys, and try to access this website using HTTPS. You have to enter HTTPS. Why? Because most times when you enter any website, right, if you enter google.com, for instance, right, it automatically becomes secure. It goes to HTTPS. But the default website entry is HTTP, which means these websites are actually using URL rewriting, which means whenever this website is being entered in this form, HTTPS, this is being added to whatever the user is adding. You know what I mean? So in this case, if you don't put the HTTPS, it will go towards the HTTP protocol, the default protocol that we have on our virtual machine, which was port number 80. However, if you try to access the HTTPS using HTTPS, you're able to, right? But this is not something smart to do, right? Nobody is going to Google and put HTTPS. Which user is going to do that, right? It's not. Plus, it's not. It's time consuming. It's not easy for the user. So, in order to do this, in order to make it automatically reroute towards the HTTPS protocol or using HTTPS protocol, we have to download the Microsoft URL rewrite, right? I know it's I didn't mean to say right twice in a row, but it is what it is. So we go ahead and this is a Microsoft application. You have to install. All right, install on the desktop. Quickly installed. Go ahead, find it here. Copy. Go back to the virtual machine and paste. Right? So if you notice here in the virtual machine or in the server itself, there is nothing called URL rewrite, right? There's nothing here. So once we run this application, it will install a certain capability to the server that will allow us to reroute all traffic directly to HTTPS rather than manually typing it. So install. Tamam, I accept. It's quite quick, it doesn't take much. Just give it a few seconds and finish. And that's it. You just exit, close the server manager and reopen it again. Go through Tools, IIS Manager, click on the virtual machine or the server, and look, we have the web platform installer, which is the URL rewriter, right? So, sorry, it's here. But this is what we use to install so it's here right now. Now, what you can do is you can actually open this and add the rules by hand. It's really not that difficult, but since we can do this using a already set code or pre-set configuration list, which I'll show you right now, we first need to access the website itself. Again, the default website is under C inetpub www root portfolio. right? And let me just open this file. Config files. Let's close the SSL certificate checker and the website and this. Okay, so this is just some open source code that somebody has available, which I used to. It includes some regular expressions where anything. It's basically telling anything, any traffic that comes to reroute it to the HTTPS right protocol. So we can copy this, and it should be in the web.config file, right? After the installation, the web page's root directory has to be accessed. The IIS manager should not be open during this time. The web is required. If it does not exist, it needs to be created again. Okay. So in this case, it didn't exist for some reason. So let's just reopen the IIS manager, see if it's there. Right. Let's restart the manager. Again, sometimes you just need to refresh, restart the websites, refresh the manage website, restart to update the settings. Now, if we refresh the files here, nothing. Okay, so I guess we have to create the file, not a big deal. Go to new, text document, web.config, was it? Web.config, right? Yep. Web. Okay, type in the information. File, save as, all files, web.config. It should be somewhere here. Yep. Right. So this file is basically the configuration, rerouting configuration of this website, basically. So they said we put it in the root directory. It has to be then here. Is it available? Web.config. Yes. Hopefully this works because I haven't had problem with this. Usually when I install the rewriter, it automatically creates the web.config file, but not a big deal. We can check the bindings again. See HTTPS. Okay. And let's, again, it's a good habit to restart and refresh websites and virtual machines if something happens or before something happens. Okay, so let's try. If it doesn't work, we'll have to find a workaround. So rbdgroup.live, perfect. It automatically rerouted without having to type HTTPS. So show you that this is not cached, we will open the another browser, rbdgroup.live, right? We're not typing HTTPS, so it should by default route towards HTTP using the HTTP protocol. Click enter, and okay, well, like I said, it sometimes takes 24 hours to get the certificate installed on everything. I had more than 24 hours when I first installed it, but you just have to wait. But I mean, we can look here, right? The rbdgroup.live. If you look, it automatically takes it to HTTPS. Beforehand, we had to type in HTTPS. And so let me just make this a bit more clearer. Again, since I ran into some trouble here, close this. Okay, so we installed the URL rewriter, which is supposed to route traffic from HTTP to HTTPS without having to type the HTTPS into the address bar. Once that was completed, we closed the server manager and the web IIS manager. or the IIS manager. We opened it. Now you can learn how to use this and add rules depending on blank rule, for instance, and depending on what you want to do, right? You can do that. Or you can use a preset, right, a direct preset configuration that is available on this website, which is working on my personal portfolio website, which is amrabdullah.live. Okay. Again, this took more than 24 hours. I faced some issues. You can easily get in touch with the admin team. They respond very quickly, depending on they're a US based company, so you might have to wait for them to be open or for the support team to be available in their time zones. But the concept is you have to copy this configuration file into the root directory of where the website is. So the website is, like we said, we specified the website to be under the Windows C, inebpub, www-root, inside the portfolio website. So this is the root directory, portfolio, right? Why is it this one? Because when we created the website, right, let's try to add a new website. We selected the physical path to be that of the portfolio folder website, right? So we selected it to be like this. So this would be the root directory. So we added the web.config file inside the web.conf, inside the directory of the website itself here. Now, usually it automatically creates this web.config file, but for some reason it didn't here. The other deployment of that website, amrabdullah.live, it automatically did that for me. But like, it's not a big deal. You can create a web.config file. Anyway, so now it's ready. The installation has been completed. You can close everything, right? You can even close the virtual machine, right? Just by closing the Microsoft Remote Desktop. It should close now. It's shutting down and it's closed, right? So if you go to the left, give it some time. It's the first time it's shutting down, right? So now it's closed. There's nothing. If you try to restart, there you go. Now it's not secure because different browsers, like I said, have their own different stores. So it will take up to 24 hours, like they say here on the name.com website. It might take up to 24 hours for the certificate to be available on the web browser's certificate store, basically. Again, this is not an issue. You can just wait. But we've completed now routing and certificate SSL installation. Let's just go back to the slides and see what can we do more than that. We allowed the 443 HTTPS inbound rules. We bound it using HTTPS, correct? Now, this issue I faced on my own. I guess sometimes this happens. And this issue I will demonstrate, even though I cannot show it, I cannot replicate it, but I will demonstrate the solution to this issue. Again, let's reopen the virtual machine. Using the credentials that we set during the deployment, which includes a username and a password. So demo 1234, username Amr Abdullah, continue. So we have to go back for this to the DigiCert website, right? And the reason why I use the DigiCert website, and now you could have said, what's the reason for that? Why did you use it? I'll show you right now. This is the reason for that. Let's see. Okay, so here, for my case, when we used the, what's its name? rbdgroup.live, everything is good, right? But when I deployed my, the initial website, amrabdullah.live, I received some algorithm combination errors, some cipher errors, or more like warnings more than errors. So I was being told by DigiCert that your server supports certain combinations of algorithm, of hashing and encryption algorithms that are easily crackable nowadays, which means any user, quote unquote user, who could be an attacker, or who could be a legitimate user, but an attacker is attacking the connection between the user and the server, can easily crack that encryption algorithm that is being supported by your server. So if I check for common vulnerabilities, maybe I'll get the error here. Give me a second. Hopefully it gives us the error here. Okay, here we go. Yeah. So I have to check that. Here we go. So check the common vulnerabilities, and we see that within the TLS version 1, TLS is the new SSL, I guess. It's the new SSL 3.0 is becoming old. There's 1.0, 1.1, 1.2, and there's 1.3. So, but my server is not supporting 1.3 at the moment. So these three different algorithm and hash and algorithm combinations, encryption combinations, are insecure. Now, how would you delete that? To do so, you would have to go to the registry files, right? You can do this using the bash shell command, or simply just going to the registry file by typing regedit, registry edit, right? Be careful, this is very dangerous if you don't know what you're doing. So if you're trying to do this, follow step by step, because you can really damage your machine, and you won't be able, sometimes if you delete something, you won't be able to use certain component properly, or sometimes your components might be damaged and you'd have to reformat the entire thing. Anyways, so let's follow the what do you call it here? The steps. The path is local machine system control set. Local machine system control set 01, right? And then control cryptographic configurations. Control, and then cryptography configurations. And then local, right? And then SSL, the first one, right? Local SSL, and then 0.002. Okay, and then you click the functions. Now these are all the functions that are available for encryption and hashing when connecting using HTTPS. So just deselect all of them and go to the DigiCert website where you saw the algorithm combinations. You have the TLS RSA with 3DES, EDE, CBC, SHA, right? They're all the same. EDE, CBC, SHA, yep, they're all the same. So you just need to delete one. You need to find this combination of algorithms, encryption algorithms. So RSA with 3DS EDE, TLS RSA with this one, right? TLS RSA with 3DS EDE, CBC, SHA. TLS RSA with 3DS EDE, CBC, SHA. Correct. Just double check 3 times even, because you know the incorrect deletion of anything. Now the problem with this is the 3DES. 3DES is outdated. It's very old. It's being replaced by AES. Even AES is now getting, and by outdated I mean less secure. You know, there's more available published attacks at the moment on these encryption algorithms, especially DES. So deleting this, delete the space and click OK. Right? Close this again with everything. We say when you change very key information, restarting the server itself, the web server, is very important and recommended. So restart the virtual machine or the server. And the website, I mean, you don't really need to do this, but just in case. Restart. Okay. So now let's go to this website again and check. Let's remove this check and then put it again. So everything is good. Check for any vulnerabilities. The vulnerabilities should be gone by now. There you go. You've got, it's still there. TLS, RSA with 3DES, EDE, CBC, SHA. Okay, let me check mine. Check the original website because I use the same methods on this website. Okay, so it's gone. There's nothing here. غريب. Okay. Let's enter the registry editor. Go to functions. Anything with RSA and DES is deleted. So I guess it just takes time. It takes time. Like I said, I waited 24 hours to get my SSL certification installed. Right. These are, you don't really need to change this, you just change the SSL. Okay. So again, here, 002, functions, the path will be available on the PowerPoint presentation. Anything with 3DES has to be deleted, right? So TLS, RSA with AES, there's no 3DES. Okay, so it should be deleted. Anyway, so just like I said, it takes time, 24 hours. On the name.com website, the support team says that it takes up to 24 hours to get the certification available on all website stores or all certification browser stores. So that should be it. That's it, to be honest. There's nothing more to it. Let me just check the slide, see if there's anything else. Q&A. I will leave this website open so you can double check in 24 hours if this works or not. I won't touch it. And yeah, this is the end of the presentation. Let me open the... Yeah, this is the end of the presentation. I know there's a lot of information, some of which may not seem logical, or you might not see the need of it, but I just try to give as much information, as much general information as possible. Like Tokozani, he mentioned adding additional websites. Yes, you can do that, but once you set up the first website, the other websites should be easy. Removing the unsafe algorithms is a great initiative. It really shows that the employer or anyone who is trying to rate your website, it shows that you are knowledgeable about these kind of things. You are someone who takes initiative. And so even though the website ran properly, as you can see here, without doing so, but creating that extra step or extra layer of security is a great addition. So not all of the changes will be live. They're not all in real time. Some of them take 24 hours simply because the policies that Apple takes, since this is Safari, are different than the policies and the frequency at which they receive the certificates. They're different than each browser has a different policy, and so it might take some time. Like name.com says, 24 hours until it is reflected on all browser systems. So with that being said, this is the end. Any questions that you have, any inquiries that you might have, anything that you want to talk about, please go ahead and ask before we end the workshop. Go ahead, Yari.
Thank you so much, Sam, for your very useful information that you shared with us. Thanks so much. Just I had one question. Before I tried with the HTTP prefix in the link, I could have accessed the RBD group, and it didn't show me like it's not secure. But in the other option that I did not include the HTTP, it showed me that it's not secure. Can you tell me the reason?
So You said, let me show you. What do you mean? So using the HTTP,
it doesn't show up that this site is not secure in the beginning. But when I use the other one, the normal, directly the RBD group, it showed me that it's not secure.
the normal RBD group shows you it's not secure.
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So wait 1 second. Okay. So what are you using? What type of browser are you using? Which browser? Chrome, Safari, Firefox?
Microsoft Edge.
Microsoft Edge. Okay. So you said using rbdgroup.live is showing you not secure?
Yes.
Okay. So this is the Safari. I mean, if you go ahead and if I show you on Chrome, clicking rbdgroup.live, right? This is the same what you type, right?
Yes.
Okay, press enter. It should be secure for me. It's not secure. Okay. So if we do HTTPS, yes, the rerouting is not perfect. It's not working properly. Let's double check the web.config file. Where is it here? Portfolio. So this has to be. So your question, I understand your question. The question, the issue has to do with the rerouting itself. The web.config file. This file over here. So if you open it with the notepad, here you go. So let's try to. Maybe this isn't the place that we need to put it. Maybe we need to put it in the root folder here. Okay. Restart, refresh. Okay, and then restart over here. Maybe this is the issue. And then start the website. Okay. Let's see. No, I guess it just takes time. It takes time. Like I said, I waited 24 hours. This is the same website that I have over here. I followed the same steps.
Yes. What I mean when I put HTTP, then it doesn't show me that it's not secure. But for the normal one, when I just directly say RBD group, it shows me that it's not secure. Maybe this one it takes, as you said, time. But why for HTTP it doesn't show me?
I did the same thing. Look, HTTPS. Right. So the basic thing, HTTPS, is you saying I want to connect to the website using the SSL protocol, right? The SSL certificate. Now, like I mentioned before, the SSL certificate is not just because I have it installed all browsers, right? Do you understand?
Yes.
So it takes 24 hours to be available. I don't know why. For me, it was available on the Chrome instantly. Safari, it's not available, even though I put HTTPS. Okay, Safari is available now, HTTPS as well. There we go. Can you try again now, typing HTTPS and see if it works?
Okay, I'll type it now.
It should be working. But the rerouting should also be working. Okay, while you check, does anyone have any other questions other than the URL rewriting? Anything regarding virtual machines, server setup, domain name routing, IP routing?
Yes, it doesn't show for when I just type the RBD like this one, like your RBD group .live, it shows me that the website is not secure. But when I put that HTTPS, it doesn't show me anything. It's just normal, and it doesn't show me that it's not secure.
Okay, so when you type in the HTTPS, it shows you. Okay, so the thing is, it takes time.
No, sorry. When I type HTTPS, it doesn't show me that it's not secure.
So it's secure. Okay. So it's working. The HTTPS
Yes,
certificate
yes.
is working. Tamam.
But without that HTTPS,
Okay.
it shows me that it's not secure.
Okay. So that has to do with the URL rewriting. The URL rerouting. So let's try to reinstall the thing. Right. Let's move this file to here. URL rewrite for document. If you go to the page itself, URL rewrite, it's here. Restart. What can we do? Okay, open feature. Tamam. Check the portfolio. It's here. It wasn't here before, was it? Let's try to open this. Open with this stuff because we moved it outside. Okay, it's still here. HTTPS host. Delete. I'm entering the. Okay, come on. I'll go back to the actual IIS server and here we go. Findings. It's bound. It should work. Okay, let's check the resources that are available here. Where is it? Here we go. So here he says, he or she says that okay, simple solution to this is let me enter my my personal virtual machine and see where the config file is being installed on. So here is my virtual machine. Okay, again, I'm using the same username but a different password. Okay, so this is the virtual machine, my virtual machine. PC, again, same root file. So portfolio, the web.config folder is here. But it was a text file. How was it a text file? Okay. So copy this.
Everyone? Hello.
Hi. Okay.
تسمعوني؟
عم نسمعك ليث. How are you, Laith? Are you good?
الحمد لله. أنت كيفك؟
I'm good. Have you been attending? How is it? Did you like it? Okay. So let's close this virtual machine. Okay, and open the demonstration virtual machine for this workshop. Yep, here we go, signature time. And click continue. let's take this config file, copy it, see if this is the issue. Paste. Okay, so it's a config file. Before, what was it? All right. So let's go back to the IIS server and restart the website, and then restart the machine as well, the server. Right, it should be good. Let's just stop it and start it. Okay, let's check now. RBD. Can you check now? Diari.
Yes, I'll check it. Just a minute.
Anyone else while Diari checks? Does anyone have any question? Anything? All right, if you guys have no questions, I'll provide you right now. Go ahead while Diari and I finish this up. This is the attendance form.
Works very fine.
It works very
Thank
fine?
you so much.
Okay,
Yes.
so also post the configuration file itself. This is something that is unique. I mean, you don't really need to change it. You just can copy paste it. So I'll provide that file as well within the files, within our PowerPoint file and your certificates. I'll provide them together and I'll send it to you. Tamam?
Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Works very
So,
fine.
so you can scan this barcode on your phone if you want to finish up this workshop. Sign in, fill up the form, write your name, email. Right, there's a few more questions that will help me rate this event. And then by the end of today, hopefully I'll send you guys your attendance certificates by Microsoft, by the Microsoft Student Ambassador program. Hopefully you guys, I know it's a lot, I know it wasn't perfect, I know sometimes you have to, I know the 24-hour thing is a bit, it's not ideal, but it is what it is. I'll post as well on YouTube if anybody wants the link better than the camera. Right. The video, the YouTube right now is, I'm streaming on YouTube as well. So everything that has been discussed in this workshop is going to be saved on the YouTube channel that you guys received the link to. Moreover, I'll send a link with all the files that you may need in the to your emails, guys. So please make sure that you fill the form that I'm going to send to you guys now, because I'll use the emails from that form to send. So make sure you fill out the form again. I'm taking attendance. Okay, and that's it. There's no more. If there's no more any questions, there's no questions, and you guys have filled the attendance form. These are my socials. Right, I want to discuss the Pi Network cryptocurrency, and this is a Stanford PhD students are, or actually doctors are responsible for this new cryptocurrency. There's 10 million, 12 million plus engagers, community members. It's looking at the prospects on this cryptocurrency are very high. You don't have to really, it's not mining, it's just you logging in onto the web application or mobile application, and every 24 hours clicking a button just to show interest. You will be receiving it's free basically network cryptocurrencies. So if you would like to invest into cryptocurrency without having to invest any of your money, go ahead and sign up. You need an invitation link. Not anyone can join. So you have to be part of a network. Somebody has to invite you. Again, so if you would like, I'll post it as well on the YouTube channel. Here we go. Let's see how many people have already filled the form. Okay. 10 responses. Not good. All right. There's a few more people here. If you guys want to fill out the form, if there's no more questions, this is the end of the workshop. Thank you for attending. Appreciate it. And if you have anything to say before the end, please go ahead and say it.
Thank you so much, Mr. Amr.
Thank you, Diari. Thank you for attending, and thank you everyone for showing interest in this. Hopefully, it's been beneficial. If not now, in the future. And take care. See you. Bye bye.